Hello everyone, I'm Batuhan from Mobidictum. Today we have a special guest from Finland, Mari-Sanna, CEO and co-founder of Utopia Analytics. It's a really special AI moderator tool. I think it's really useful for the gaming industry, especially for the games which has big community. We will hear more about the product today. Welcome, Mari-Sanna.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about yourself a little bit and what the company does?
Yeah, I'm from Finland, and being from Finland means that I speak a very special language, which means coming from the machine learning side, I have PhD on machine learning and text analytics. I needed to create AI models that really work for the Finnish language as well as for English, for example. And I ended up coming to language-independent text analytics models, which means that any language or any dialect in the world can be analyzed with the same AI tool. So Utopia provides this kind of language-independent text analytics, and the main product we provide is Utopia AI Moderator, which understands a comment, for example, in a game, what the players have been talking to each other. It understands the meaning in the comments, and then it decides whether this comment follows the community guidelines of this game or not.
Okay, right now, most of the games, as I know, they have a community manager and they have the black and white moderation list. Like obviously AI brings the value, but what do you see? Like, what is the biggest challenge in moderation nowadays?
So of course, it depends on what kind of moderation tools there are available and what kind of community it is and so on. So all communities have their own problems and also they have their own benefits. But the big thing is that in very many games, the volumes are huge. And when the volumes are huge, then it is quite difficult to moderate everything in a good way. Also, there are multiple languages in all the global games. So those are big problems in how to technically handle those kind of situations.
Because ideally, if you have like 14 main languages, then you need tools which is actually processing these like languages, and maybe additionally you need another content manager who speaks that language, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And not only speaks, also understands the culture, because not only having the actual meanings of the words, there are also cultural interpretations in how you say and what kind of behavior is accepted. So there's a lot of things also for us humans in moderation, what is difficult.
Okay, well, you mentioned culture. Obviously, like a local person understands the culture and they can understand the context. What about if the AI can understand the social interaction between humans, this cultural context, can it understand?
Yeah, if you use this kind of AI that understands languages and it understands the semantic meaning in the text, this kind of AI can also learn how different cultures are different and what kind of behavior is acceptable in this context and what isn't. So you need humans to define what is good and bad. Say in the first place in the game that this kind of comments are acceptable here and these aren't, and then give that to an AI which is able to learn from these examples.
Clarify for my audience, since you mentioned language independence, so people will try to imagine right now if you are adding like new words to each language, or how do you process? It's a little bit technical question, but really briefly, how do you actually analyze these languages?
Yeah, traditionally, when you build an AI tool for one language, you set up word lists or ontologies or this kind of structures that this kind of words and this kind of phrases are accepted and this kind of things are not. And then you use that as the basis of the AI model. But with Utopia's language-independent text analytics, we don't have any word lists. So we only take the earlier chat messages and the human decisions, whether they were accepted or not. And we train the AI model with only that information. So basically it means that the AI model is very skilled in learning language, the language structure from the data. So it is about the algorithms used.
So, I mean, I watched the demo a couple of times, every time I watch it, I'm amazed. Maybe some of my audience actually knows that I show this product to game companies which has large communities. But when there's certain content is allowed and some of them is not allowed, like how does it understand? For example, kill. Like the word kill in a kids game might be offensive, but in a first-person shooter game, it's normal. How does it understand this?
Every game is different, and that's why we built a separate AI model for each game. So it is the humans, the community managers, who define what kind of messages, not only single words, but the full message is accepted and what isn't. So Utopia AI doesn't handle words separately, like whether a certain word exists or not, but it reads the full message and understands the meaning. And after understanding the meaning, it decides, according to the training data received from human moderators, it decides whether to accept or decline a message.
Okay, so just to clarify, it's not completely automated. The community manager can still moderate if the AI is sending a notification like, please moderate this or not. It's up to the company to moderate manually or still check if the AI is working or not.
Utopia AI Moderator can moderate 100% of the content coming in, but it also says sometimes that now I didn't have enough training data to moderate this kind of message, and it flags those for humans. And this AI should be treated as a tool. So it is not a human, or it is not the, like, bigger power who decides what is good or what is bad. It is a tool that has learned how those humans who did moderation earlier did that work. The tool scales it in the big volumes, and then the human moderators use this tool to moderate big volumes of messages. And sometimes the tool says that no, it was difficult to moderate this automatically, please check it. And if those human moderators have time, they can check that comment, and it is then used as additional training data for Utopia AI. And in this way, it learns more. So if there are new kind of cases in the community, those can be trained for the AI in real time, and then the model stays up to date all the time.
Okay. Well, people can talk multiple languages, like when they're chatting, they can speak English and then switch to German if they want to swear something. How does the AI, considering it's language-based, let's say, okay, English chat. So the AI is prepared to read everything in English, but then someone drops a German word. How does the AI react on that?
Utopia AI doesn't care whether it is English or German. Basically, it takes the same actions what the humans did. So if the humans decided to decline everything that is in other languages, the AI learns to do the same. Or if they were able to understand also the other language which was used, and they moderated according to what was the actual meaning, the AI learns the same. And if they didn't care about the other language, the AI learns to do the same.
Yes, we should look from that perspective actually, because in the demo, for example, someone can use emojis, right? Abbreviations, like any kind of, to either phishing attack, sexual assault, or harassing someone, anything, and using emojis, abbreviations, different languages, and so on. But the AI can catch all of them, right?
Yeah, the idea is that it understands the context where the emoji or the abbreviation is located, or even if there is misspelling. So in the same way how humans would treat that kind of messages, the AI does the same. And that is different than what you would assume, because it doesn't handle separate words separately, but it understands the full meaning of the message at the same time.
Does the player understand that they are being moderated by AI?
So we at Utopia, we recommend our customers to let their users know that the communication is moderated. We also recommend that every and each game define their own community guidelines about what kind of behavior is acceptable and what isn't. And then they should follow their own community guidelines. And if they do so, Utopia AI Moderator can receive correct training data to get a high quality AI model to moderate the game chat.
Okay, well, community is obviously really important for gaming. Can AI help building these communities and increase the engagement, for example? Not just the moderation, but involving players in a way that it will also build the community.
Yeah, I think moderation is quite big part there, because if someone doesn't behave, of course it creates that kind of feelings for all the other players that no, it is okay to behave badly, and I'm treated in a way I wouldn't like to be treated. So the moderation helps in that. And we can think about having physical events like a concert. There are always security personnel, because the law is in many countries says that there has to be security personnel to make sure that everyone is behaving. So in an online game, we need similar kind of security for the players, that those who behave in a good way, they can do whatever they want to do. And those once they start to behave badly, then the moderator comes and says that this is not okay behavior here. AI can be, of course, also to be used for many other usages. For example, learning what kind of features in the games the users like, and then give that kind of information for the game developers to get new kind of ideas, what kind of things to be used. But that is just an example.
Okay, because I discussed this with the team also. I remember that it can actually understand what's the popular topic, right? What's the trending topic amongst the community? So the company, the game studio, can get this data and make a business plan out of it. Okay, this is popular. We should look into this.
Yeah, it is one way. We of course need to remember that there are certain legislation, for example, GDPR in EU, and these kind of laws have to be followed. So definitely whenever we use AI models, we need to think about how we use the data and for what purposes and so on. And of course, the players need to be informed what is the purpose for the community discussions to be used. I think the moderation is very obvious one. Almost everyone would say that it is good that bad behavior is restricted in some way. But then the other parts are something that need to be discussed separately.
Okay, got it. You talk about ethical AI. Like, can you give more information about that? Like, what does it mean in the best practice in chat moderation?
We only recently noticed that, well, all the years we have been building this kind of AI models, we have actually been following this kind of ethical standards from the very beginning. For us, it is very important that this kind of very, very powerful tool is used for the good. So there are many things what we do which we think are ethical decisions. For example, Utopia never defines what is good behavior and what is bad behavior. And the reason for this is that we are moderating many communities all around the world. And it wouldn't be good if one company would decide what is good and what is bad. So we have decided to do in a way that our customers always define what is the community guideline and what is good and bad, what is good behavior on their platform. And then every platform have a bit different moderation policy. And we train then our AI for them separately. So their moderation policy is then scaled in big volumes. And that's the service what we provide. Also for us, it is very important that United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights is followed. So especially freedom of speech and equal treatment from there. Freedom of speech means that everyone is able to talk about their opinions, and because of that, they are not moderated so out from the discussions. So Utopia as a company, we don't want to sell this product for parties which we will think this wouldn't be followed. So we have also in our contracts a clause that United Nations, this declaration has to be followed by us, by Utopia, and also by the customer. And then also as a third thing, the equal treatment between the users is very important. So we wouldn't like to build AI models that are based on user modeling. So based on the fact what this user did last time. So for us, it is very important that the actual message, what the user said in the context, is analyzed, and only that. And the decision is always the same, independently on who was the person who said this in this kind of context. So these are very important ethical decisions for us.
Okay, got it. So there is no criminal record of a player. Everything is in that context, right?
Yeah, if you learn to behave, then you can talk, and if you treat others in a bad way, then you can't talk. But you can change your mind and start to behave, and that's all right.
Okay. Anyone who is watching this, like on YouTube, wants, let's say, they want to integrate. What are the steps for integration? How what they should provide? How the moderator will analyze the data?
Yeah, this tool is very easy to take into use. So basically, we need to have earlier human decisions about how the what is the community guideline, how different kind of messages are treated in the human moderation. And for us at Utopia, it takes only 2 weeks to set up a high production quality AI model. And we build it specifically for that game or that community. And from the customer side, they need to integrate to Utopia API. It takes from 2 to 3 days to do that. So it is a very quick thing to set up everything. And then you can try and test it, how it works in real life, actually in your platform.
Okay. Well, dear game companies, if you have a big audience and you want to grow even further to clear the toxicity, let human moderators rest a little bit by their manual moderation. Definitely check out the Utopia Analytics website. We are going to add all the links available for your consideration. Mari-Sanna, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.